75,000 fans, flags waving, chants echoing. The Allianz Arena was a fortress. Loud, confident, unstoppable. Germany had just watched Real Madrid destroy Dortmund the night before. They needed Bayern to restore their pride and to remind Europe who's boss. But then, out of nowhere, one man walked in and silenced all of them. No, not Messi, not Ronaldinho. It was Raphinha. But how did he do that? Well, let's talk about that. This season, Raphinha hasn't just been good, he's been sensational. 27 goals, 20 assists. These aren't just impressive numbers for a winger. These are numbers that belong to a player knocking on the door of football's biggest individual honour, the Ballon d'Or. But it's not just about the stats, it's how he's doing it. Week after week, whether it's a tense night in the Champions League, a gritty La Liga battle, or a knockout tie in the Copa del Rey, Raphinha has been the heartbeat of Barcelona's attack. He's the one making things happen, the one driving the ball forward, unlocking defences and showing up in the big moments. He's no longer just a winger hugging the touchline and delivering the occasional cross. He's become something far more complete. This season, Raphinha has evolved into a creator-in-chief, a relentless runner, and a ruthless finisher, all rolled into one. Barcelona haven't just benefited from his performances, they've depended on them. Every attacking move seems to flow through him. When the team looks flat, he adds urgency. When the match demands magic, he steps up. Whether it's a clever through ball, a curling strike from the edge of the box, or a perfectly timed assist, Raphinha is delivering with a consistency that puts him among Europe's elite. And what makes this rise even more incredible is that just a season ago, this level of impact seemed almost impossible. Because under Xavi, the version of Raphinha we're seeing today was never given the chance to exist. Under Xavi, Raphinha didn't look like the player we see today, and honestly, it wasn't entirely his fault. He was stuck in a system that didn't suit his strengths. He was often deployed as a traditional winger, stationed wide on the touchline, far from goal, and rarely given the freedom to roam or create. His job was simple: stay wide, stretch the play, and hope something opened up. But the biggest issue, the minutes, or the lack of them. He'd get maybe 60 minutes, if that. Sometimes he'd start a game, play well, create chances, and still be the first one taken off. It didn't matter if he had momentum or if the team needed creativity, he was substituted like it was pre-planned. That kind of treatment chips away at a player. It sends a message: you're not trusted, and it showed. There was hesitation in his game. He wasn't trying risky passes. He wasn't taking players on the way he could. Because when you know that your spot in the starting 11 isn't secure, when you're constantly looking at the fourth official expecting your number to come up, you stop playing with instinct. You start playing to not make mistakes. And that's the thing. Raphinha is a player who thrives on instinct. He's not the type to just sit wide and recycle possessions. He wants to break lines, shoot from a distance, combine, and go. But last season we barely saw any of that. Not because he wasn't capable, but because he was caged. He was playing within the limits that didn't allow his creativity to breathe. It wasn't that he didn't have the quality, it's that the system around him and the trust from the manager simply weren't there. And for any player, especially one as expressive and dynamic as Raphinha, that can be career-defining. But what makes this journey so inspiring is that he didn't give up. He didn't pack his bags, demand a move, or disappear into the background. He waited, he worked, and when the moment came, the arrival of a new manager, everything changed. Because what came next was a different Raphinha. A player unshackled, a player trusted, a player finally put in a position to shine. And the man who made that happen, Hansi Flick. So what exactly happened? How did Raphinha go from a frustrated, isolated winger to one of the most exciting attackers in Europe this season? Well, it all started when Hansi Flick took the reins, and the change, it's nothing short of remarkable. You know, sometimes it's not just about the players, it's about how the manager understands their strengths and gives them the right platform to succeed. That's exactly what Flick did. He didn't just tweak a few things here and there, he revolutionized Raphinha's role, and in doing so, he unlocked something we hadn't seen before. First off, Flick's tactical approach was a game changer. He didn't just want Raphinha out wide, sprinting up and down the touchline. Instead, he had a bigger vision. Flick moved him into a more central position. No longer was Raphinha just a winger, he became an inside forward. Think about it. He wasn't asked to hug the sideline and cross balls into the box. No, Flick used him almost like a second striker, or at times a number 10. Suddenly, Raphinha was playing in the heart of the attack, making runs into the box, combining with teammates in dangerous areas and creating chaos for defenders in a much more effective way. This wasn't just a minor shift, it was a complete tactical overhaul. It gave Raphinha the freedom to roam, to get closer to their goal, to be in the thick of things. No longer was he just a guy waiting for a ball to cross into the box. He was now the one making things happen, acting as a playmaker, a goal scorer, and a creator all at once. This is what brought out the best in him. Raphinha thrives when he's in the center of the action, making quick decisions, finding space between the lines, and using his incredible footwork to unlock defenses. Flick knew that, and he built a system around it. The result? A player who's been involved in every attacking move, someone who's become the focal point of Barcelona's offense. When Raphinha gets on the ball now, defenders aren't just worried about him crossing, they're worried about him cutting inside, taking a shot, or finding a teammate in a perfect position. It's all come together in a way that we couldn't have imagined last season. But there's another massive part of the equation: trust. And trust from a manager doesn't just come in the form of a tactical setup. It's also about showing a player that you believe in them. And Flick has done exactly that with Raphinha. You can't underestimate how much trust can do for a player's confidence. Look at the way Flick has handled Raphinha from the start. Despite all the transfer rumours swirling around him last summer, despite the whispers about his future, Flick made it crystal clear. Raphinha is a key part of this team. He didn't let him go. He didn't listen to the outside noise. He backed him, and more than that, Flick gave him the playing time he needed to grow. Under Xavi, we saw Raphinha being hooked off at the 60-minute mark, no matter how well he was playing, but under Flick, it's been the complete opposite. Raphinha's been given the trust and consistency to play full matches, to get into a rhythm and to truly express himself. And that's made all the difference. When a player knows the manager has his back, when he's given the freedom to make mistakes and to try new things, that's when you see the best version of them. That's when they can start to shine. And this isn't just a case of a few good performances here and there. Raphinha has stepped up to the plate and delivered, game after game. But the real turning point, the game where everything came together for him, was about to come in a clash that would define his season. Raphinha had played many great games this season, but this was the one. Bayern Munich, in Germany, in front of 75,000 fans. The air was thick with anticipation. The atmosphere, electric, no doubt. But there was something else in the air, a certain weight of history, and if you're a Barcelona fan, you know exactly what I mean. Bayern Munich have bullied Barcelona in recent years. I'm talking about the 8-2 demolition in the Champions League, the 3-0 thrashing in the group stages, and let's not forget the 5-0 aggregate hammering in previous season. Every time these two teams meet, it felt like Bayern were playing a different sport. Barcelona, they were just trying to hang on, hoping for some kind of miracle. The way Bayern just ran them over, it was brutal. It was humiliating. And if you're thinking it couldn't get worse for Barcelona, think again. The night before this match, Real Madrid had just done what they do best, stun Germany with a 5-2 win over Borussia Dortmund. And to make it even worse, Vinicius Jr. bagged a hat-trick. A hat-trick! The entire nation of Germany, Bayern Munich fans included, had their heads down after that. Madrid had claimed the spotlight, and the German pride was hurt. They needed Bayern to stand up, to remind the world who's boss. But then, something changed. Raphinha, quietly biding his time all season, had been waiting for this moment. He wasn't just another player in this game. He was the player. He was ready to show up when it mattered most. He saw the stage, he saw the stakes, and he said, it's showtime. Bayern Munich might have expected to restore German pride, stamp their authority on this match, and make a statement, but Raphinha had other plans. The nerves, he didn't have any. He was hungry for the spotlight, hungry to silence the critics who had written him off. hungry to show that he belonged among the elite. The stage was set in the Champions League, and the atmosphere intense. Bayern Munich in their backyard, with a record of tearing Barcelona apart in recent years. The game kicked off, and within just over a minute, Raphinha had already given Barcelona the lead. 1 minute! How crazy is that? Fermin Lopez, a player we've seen step up big this season, threaded a perfect pass to Raphinha. The Brazilian's speed was on full display as he sprinted past Bayern's defensive line, beating the offside trap with ease. Then he did what Raphinha does best, coolly rounded the onrushing Manuel Neuer and tapped the ball into an empty net. 1-0 Barcelona. Just like that. And not only did that goal put Barcelona ahead, but it was also the start of Raphinha's statement performance. But here's where it gets interesting. Bayern Munich wasn't rattled. They didn't crumble under the pressure. In fact, they responded like the top-tier team they are. They were in control for large parts of the game, knocking on Barcelona's door with chance after chance. But Barcelona, well, they weren't going to sit back and just absorb the pressure. They had their weapons: speed, precision, and Raphinha. Every time they broke forward, they looked dangerous. Raphinha and Lamine Yamal, a nightmare for Bayern's defense. The two of them, with their blistering pace, made sure that Bayern couldn't afford to get too comfortable. And that's when Barcelona's attack, led by Raphinha, started to look like something special. Bayern's defense didn't know whether to stick or twist. Every counter was an opportunity, and every time Raphinha was involved, it felt like it could end in a goal. But here's the thing. While Barcelona were looking lethal on the counter, their defense, not so much. They were vulnerable. Bayern were carving out chances, and some should have ended in goals. Serge Gnabry and Michael Olise were consistently buzzing around the Barcelona defense, creating problems for them all night. The high defensive line that Hansi Flick had set up was leaving space for Bayern's wingers to exploit, and they nearly did just that. Bayern thought they'd equalised in the 10th minute through a Harry Kane header. The stadium held its breath. The ball hit the back of the net, and Bayern thought it was 1-1, but the VAR came to Barcelona's rescue. Kane was offside, marginally, but enough for the ref to disallow it. A sigh of relief for Barca, but the danger wasn't over yet. Just 8 minutes later, Bayern were back on level terms. This time it was Kane again with a volley off across from Gnabry. It was a clinical finish, and Bayern celebrated like they'd just taken control of the match, but Barcelona were far from done. The intensity ramped up from both teams. Barcelona, rather than sitting back, responded immediately, and in the 36th minute, it was Raphinha's compatriot, Fermin Lopez, who would provide the spark again. Kim Min-jae of Bayern failed to deal with a high ball into the box, and Lopez pounced. A cheeky chip between Neuer and Deo Upamecano saw Robert Lewandowski in the right place at the right time, and he tapped it in for Barcelona's second goal. Bayern were furious. They claimed there was a push on Kim during the build-up. The complaints were loud, but VAR didn't see enough to overturn the decision. And Barcelona, fueled by the controversy, found another level. The home side started to look more confident and more composed. Now this is where Raphinha stepped up. Just before the half-time, he unleashed a stunning curling strike from the edge of the box. A perfect pass from Marc Casado found Raphinha, who bent the ball beautifully into the top corner past Neuer. 3-1 Barcelona. And you could feel it then. You could feel the shift. Bayern were stunned. The momentum had swung in Barcelona's favour, and Raphinha was the man who was making it all happen. The game was still far from over, but it was clear that Bayern's hopes were slipping away with every passing minute. Then, in the 56th minute, Bayern had barely settled into the second half when Barcelona hit them again. A quick counter-attack, a hallmark of their play under Hansi Flick, and Raphinha finished the job. A composed strike, clinical, from yet another lightning-quick break. It was 4-1, and the Barcelona crowd was buzzing. And here's the thing, you could hear it, even in the intensity of the stadium, the crowd chanting "Olé" with every pass. The ball moved so smoothly, so effortlessly, it felt like a footballing masterclass. Bayern Munich, the mighty Bayern, were silenced, and the crowd? They were loving every second of it. Raphinha's goal had capped off the perfect performance. Not just a goal, but 2 moments of magic and the full 90 minutes of the kind of play that made people sit up and notice. And there it was. Barcelona didn't just win this game, they destroyed Bayern, a 4-1 victory that felt even bigger than the scoreline suggested. And through it all, Raphinha was the player who rose above the rest, the one who made sure Bayern Munich were sent packing, their hopes dashed, their pride shattered. Raphinha didn't just silence 75,000 fans, he silenced the critics too. The world was watching, and he made sure to take his moment. But what does this game mean for him? Is it another game in a good season, or is this the moment that truly changes his career trajectory? Well, let me know in the comments, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thank you, and see you in the next video.